Hello, everyone. We're going to wait a few moments to start while the participants come into the room. We're going to go over Google search for e-commerce today. So if you're not here for that, you're in the wrong room.
But you're welcome to stay.
Yes, please do.
If you got here by
By all
accident,
means.
you're still welcome.
Yeah, you still should stay, exactly. Definitely.
So got a few more people trickling in, and then we'll get started. All right. So my name is Nick Talbert. In addition to being this webinar's host, I am the head of marketing here at Quartile, and we are going to talk about Google search today and a bunch of other Google properties that are specifically made for the e-commerce audience and e-commerce merchants. And to do this, we've got our very own Mr. Kennard Schleidel-Zink, who is our CRO at Quartile. And we've got John Kennard from Google. He runs the strategic partnerships for Google Shopping and is going to be our sort of Google on-site insider today. Just a few game rules for the webinar. We will be answering questions throughout the webinar on either the chat or the Q&A, so feel free to use it as needed. And we will make these slides available and the recording available after this for anybody who is curious. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Kanan.
Awesome. Well, if any of you guys were just joining and saw my name typed out on the slide there and were a little bit intimidated from a pronunciation standpoint, just know that Nick and I have known each other and worked together for more than 10 years, and he still struggles with it. So feel free if we ever meet or have any dialogue. Kanan is just fine. And luckily I'm running the show today and Nick won't have to try to pronounce our CEO, Daniel Knijnik's last name either. So we'll keep it simple.
Like a friend of mine says, spelling is my curse, right?
But welcome everybody today. And you know, as we get into, or, you know, kind of through the dog days of summer here, and as we've all seen this year, us folks who are Amazon sellers or who are working to power sales in the Amazon marketplace, it's gotten increasingly competitive, really tight. And so this session today is really for folks who are in that marketplace now and and are interested in diversification and expanding and getting better results through additional media channels, specifically the options that Google brings to the table. So we're really excited to have John here to give a deep dive in some areas and hopefully demystify some things that folks aren't aware of, and show folks how simple it is to get activated with the various Google Shopping and e-commerce forward products, how those can be coupled with your Amazon specific sales tactics and advertising tactics. And then of course, you know, in a bit of a self-serving way, how we as Quartile can help bring that together for you. So to elaborate a little bit on the agenda for today, we'll just start. You know, I know that we've got a good amount of folks who might be new to Quartile on the call today. So we'll kind of give you an overview of who we are, what we're about, and what we're trying to produce on behalf of our customer base. We'll get into a little bit more about why this diversification strategy is really critical in any year, but particularly this year and particularly this time of year, why it's so important to get in and start activating some of these strategies. Then I'm going to pass the ball over to John for the really intelligent piece of the presentation today, and he's going to go through these sections here and talk about, you know, just give a broader overview of the Google Merchant Center and how that works, and then elaborate a bit more on free listings, Google search, and shopping ads. And then, as I said before, we're going to kind of wrap back in with our capabilities and how we can plug in via API and our service teams to help manage some of those things for you in concert with Amazon and other channels that you might be working with us in today. And then we'll wrap things up with a good old-fashioned Q&A session. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of great questions as we get into this. So without further ado here, about us, right? So Quartile is an e-commerce ad management and optimization technology company. And, what in a nutshell, what we're striving to do for sellers and brands is provide a simplicity of solution for an increasingly complex market here, right? And the way we do that always starts with our technology. And as we know in this space, we have all types of clients, all types of brands and sellers in the space, some of which who have pretty large and robust e-commerce marketing teams, some of which who don't have them at all. And so it's really important for us as well, not just providing the technology layer here, but the service layer to help manage and operate as an extension of the business or the brand to kind of become that marketing team if you don't have one. And so what that has translated to over the last 5 years is we've grown to where we are now. We manage about $10 billion in marketplace sales annually. We have about 3,500 accounts connected globally. We've got a large staff of DSP certified professionals and about half a dozen algorithms deployed across the different marketplaces to achieve those results. And so what do some of those customers look like? We always like to highlight this, right? Because, if you're on the line thinking like, all right, well, I'm in CPG, does this really make sense for me? Or I'm in consumer electronics, or I'm in publishing, or maybe I run an agency, or I work in marketing for an aggregator of brands that doesn't have any specific domain expertise. We can help in any scenario, right? So math is the universal language. We're based on math. And so really for us, being able to drive performance is not category or vertical agnostic, right? So you see a few logos here, everything from home goods, CPG, food and beverage, like I say, publishing, apparel, footwear, and then even aggregators and agencies, we're able to help across the board. As long as you are looking to drive scale and efficiency in your marketing spend to achieve your business growth and the key results that you want, we're able to plug in and help you do that. So without further ado here, let's jump into diversification, right? And so this is why we're here today. We're here to talk about specifically diversifying through Google search for Amazon sellers. And let's talk about why, right? So it's no great insight for me to tell you guys that, the more digital traffic your products or your storefront receives, the more opportunities you guys have to drive sales and create lifetime customers. The Amazon marketplace is, of course, an incredible place to drive traffic. It's the busiest shopping center in the world. But as resources like us, and then of course, even, Amazon owned and operated tools and technology get better and better, and the marketplace gets busier and busier, that also means that competition increases quite a bit. Right. So as the ability to drive traffic in that channel alone becomes more robust and efficient, of course, competition is going to increase along the way. And so we're at a point now in the digital marketplace ecosystem where it's really too risky to kind of place all your bets on one traffic source, right? And not just from a competition standpoint, right? But if you're isolated in terms of your media investment and ad spend, into one specific channel or walled garden, then you're really at the mercy of the dynamics of that business model or regulations that happen to occur that those platforms need to adapt to, and thus you as a marketer need to adapt to, right? And so I think we all, we all experience this, or most of us probably experienced this on this call with Facebook earlier in the year, right? And as things change for the platform businesses, that trickles down. And if you're isolated to one channel, then of course that's going to be very disruptive to what your sales performance is, what your expectation and forecast would have been as you take time to adapt to that. So diversification in traffic sources and sales channels is critical, right? So isolating in your spend like I said, isolating your spend and activity to one channel really puts unnecessary pressure on your brand or your marketing team to be reactive in your approach, when really, the whole point of investing in advertising and marketing is that you're proactively trying to generate new revenue, longer lasting revenue, and grow your customer base. So to elaborate a little bit, right? We all know here, everybody on this call, advertising is an investment in the brand, right? You're putting money in for a greater return later, right? And so, not in all cases, but certainly in a lot of cases, your marketing approach should be similar to how you would look at a financial investment, right? So ideally, you want a diverse portfolio from a media perspective, so that your results are more stable. You're less prone to fluctuations in market conditions and the bigger platforms business models. And you also have a really diverse view into a broad channel set, so that when you see opportunity to accelerate performance, you can actually double down on the right channel that's going to have a short and long-term impact. And you're able to kind of balance your spend across all markets that you're in for a bit more sustainable growth model. And again, able to harness acceleration. As we'll talk about a little bit later, there's a big opportunity with the Amazon brand referral bonus program, specifically right now with Google.
One comment, Kenan, just to add here. Another thing, another dynamic that we have been identifying in the market is that, especially with all this aggregator push now, and lots of companies being acquired or thinking about selling at some point, all these entrepreneurs that I know that are on the audience now, you are more valuable if you have more channels, right? Exactly because you end up being too concentrated if you're just selling on Amazon. Having another channel and selling also on your website. For example, we have a client that always comes to my mind when it comes to Google, that Google and Shopify, right? He sends traffic to his website as well, and he told me that they're paying almost like a 10 to 15% premium, because he's selling also on his direct-to-consumer website. So it's a very big seller. He sells like north of $30 million a year on Amazon, and his goal for this year is to sell $1 million on Amazon, on Google, on his Shopify. Sorry, sending traffic from Google. So he said, it's not that 1 million is going to change my company, but it's a beginning, and it increases my value exponentially. So not to have all the eggs on the same basket, but I think that, like, by diversifying, you increase the value of your brand, you increase the value of your company, you have more people starting to go to your website, so everything else happens as well.
Exactly. So, just to give you a picture of kind of how we see, what a true kind of diverse traffic model would look like here, right? You might expect Amazon to be either maybe in some cases that are, for you as a seller, it's at the top of the funnel, or maybe it's at the bottom of the funnel. But really, to truly effectively have a flywheel model here, you want to harness Google at that intent and awareness stage to drive into Amazon, so that you already have kind of a captive customer as they enter the marketplace. And then social media and display, and we can we'll be talking about those at another time, as a funnel or as a channel to re-engage and retarget customers. So we'll dip back into some of this stuff later, but for now I'm going to toss it over to John.
Okay,
and John, I'll drive. Just give me a nod when you want me to move forward here.
Well, that sounds great, Kenan. And thanks, Kenan and Daniel, for having us and for the partnership. We're very excited about this. I understand that the audience that we're speaking with, you may be heavily invested in your Amazon business, obviously, if you partner with Quartile, or if you're learning for the first time. We're very excited about the partnership with Quartile, because we really view these guys as a bridge, or at least I do, as a bridge to help so many great businesses, great brands find their way to Google. And I think that there's some really sort of exciting traffic that I think we can access for your business, and really it aligns with the diversification that these guys are talking about. But if you go to the next slide, Kenan, what I want to talk about really above anything is we've undergone some shifts in our platform, and you may not have looked at us previously, even though we have 8 properties with 1 billion users. We have tons of commercial intent every single day. We really are sort of for many people, the first part of their shopping journey. And not just the first part, but many touch points, right? If you think about YouTube or image search or shopping platform or what have you. And what we found is that there's, our business is focused around the user, right? How do we build the richest user experience we possibly can? And what we've come to the realization of the last few years is by creating as open an ecosystem as possible, what we're going to do is lower the barrier for brands to participate in our ecosystem. And if we're able to do that, what we do is we actually give more choice and more richness and more quality to the user. And ultimately, if we are sort of the source of truth for product, the product catalog of the universe and where to get something, what the prices for a product are, what the reviews for that product are, if we can sort of incorporate all of those components into our platform, then ultimately we're servicing the user and we're driving a better experience. If you want to go to the next slide, Kennard, I'll talk a little bit more about what I mean by democratizing the platform and what I mean by an open ecosystem. So really the thing that we're trying to do, if you think about it in tangible terms, is make our platform make it for users the start of the shopping journey. And again, sort of incorporate as much product detail as possible. And I think the interesting shift here that we're embarking on is really become as agnostic as possible about the path that user wants to take to buy the product. And so the thing that Daniel and Kennard were talking about you want to have diversification is not just because of the security of your business or to not be at the whims of one particular channel for sales, but it's also to service the user. If you think about the people who are going to buy your products, their preferences about how they want to buy those products, whether they want to get it from your D2C website or from their marketplace of their choice, or from their favorite retailer, or from a brick and mortar pickup location, or they want to buy it on Google because they have stored credit card and shipping address in their Google account. We want to facilitate that, and we ultimately want to be impartial about where that transaction happens, because at the end of the day, that's servicing the user, that's giving the user the best experience. And I think there's a lot of opportunity in that. And I think you'll see some of the visual changes to the platform as well. And so we think it's not only a great time for if you're trying to push your way or reach into a new channel, to reach into Google and actually list your products directly with us. We think it's sort of the right moment, and we think Quartile is a very interesting partner because they can help be that bridge and sort of help translate your brand onto our platform. Let's go to the next slide, Kennard. And so again, sort of going from more abstract to more tangible, some of the changes that we've made over the last few years, we've incorporated some some transaction capability on our platform that's formerly known as shopping actions, now buy on Google. But buying on the platform is something that can happen. What the big announcement that we had last year, so around this time last year, maybe a little bit earlier, is that we rethought how our pages looked. Now this is an illustration, but it's meant to sort of emphasize that the shift that we've had is, if you look a few years ago, if you looked at a Google search results page or a shopping page or what have you, a large majority of those pages would in fact be paid, right? You'd have to create a Google account and actually spend money to access those impressions. And what we've done is we've had a reshifting, if you will, where we still have that ads component. And this is an extremely viable channel for many, many businesses to acquire customers. And Daniel and Kennard can speak to it as well. And some of the merchants that we have already spending through Quartile can probably speak to that as well. But we've incorporated a free listings component as well, which means if you have relevant products, if you have great products, you can list your products with us directly. You can get traffic to the destination of your choosing, and ultimately get sort of very viable transactions at virtually no cost. And it's servicing the user, right? That the user is getting a better experience because you're bringing products that you wouldn't have had there before. We're able to surface those and give the richest experience possible. And I think the interesting thing here, and we'll talk about the different channels, but the combo, the 1-2 punch of the ads and the free listings create this sort of virtuous cycle in our ecosystem. And it's a way for you to bootstrap and actually drive relevance within our platform and see sales come from both of those channels. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Ken, if you want to go to the next slide. And so when you're thinking about this idea of demystifying our platform, and again, I would lean on the Quartile team as a bridge, as a team that can help with components of this. If you don't have a website, there are ways to create websites. I think the Quartile team can help as well. But it's increasingly easy to create a direct-to-consumer website. And I think the incentive structure by listing with us is actually there as well to start acquiring customers directly, or to have multiple paths for those customers to go, right? Whether they go to your store, to your Amazon store, or what have you, all of that is good. And ultimately, you want to be in as many streams as possible. But we think of the world as sort of broken up between retailer and not, like website and non-website. So if you have a website, you would want to invest in free listings, right? So list your products for free and get those clicks for free. Pair that with an advertising strategy. And again, the Quartile team can help sort of translate that. And we've got some sort of existing data points where we know that this works, and we know that we can go deeper and optimize with the team. And between those two, you can create some sort of halo or synergy, if you will. And I hate to use the word synergy, but between free listings and shopping ads. And so that's fairly simple to participate in. You can come directly to the Google Merchant Center and create an account. You can set up through your Shopify store, your Woo store. You can use third-party management tools like Channel Advisor, Zentail. We have built-ins with them so that you can list your products. And those will take basically that. So again, think of that sort of left side as these. I've got a website and I want to participate in those two channels. And then finally, if you don't have a website, there is another way to do it. This is another virtually free channel. You have to pay for the transaction through the payment gateway, but ultimately Google is not taking transaction for buy on Google or selling directly on Google transactions. The area I would say to focus on today is really on that left side, right? So free product listings and shopping ads are really sort of the scale strategy. And then buying on Google or transactions on Google, it's something that's a little more nascent, and it's going to take time for us to grow over time. So if you're looking to capture some of that scale, again, it's the free listings and shopping ads. Next slide, Kanan. And so to emphasize the benefits, I've already sort of talked through these, but basically in our advertising products, that's the most mature, right? That's going to get you into the most sort of areas, if you will. So if you're on YouTube, if there's relevant content or relevant videos, you can reach customers there, on display, on search, on shopping, on images, et cetera, et cetera. And I think this is the thing I wanted to call out, is that what we've seen is the combination of free listings and paid listings. It creates a sort of general halo effect where you see more clicks and more traffic overall. Let's go to the next slide, Kennard. One more time, just to echo that there is some element of halo. Again, this is sort of free listings focused, and I would say that for our audience, we really think that there's a really viable playbook here with ads and free listings together. I won't bore you with this amazing amount of text, but generally what we're seeing is if you're putting your products into free listings, what it does is it gives you a chance to see which products actually have sort of natural relevance and which ones are going to get impressions on their own, and which ones may need a boost to get out of sort of a cold start, if you will. And ultimately, that's a signal that you can use to optimize your advertising and ultimately get more returns overall. Let's go to the next slide, Kenan. And then finally, this is from a visual standpoint. What does it look like? What does it feel like? So the way to participate in Google's ecosystem is there's one feed in, right? You create a Merchant Center account, you create one singular feed that comes in, and then you ultimately select the channels that you'd like to participate in. So if you want to do free listings, you click a button. If you want to do shopping ads, you do create an ads campaign based off of those products. And again, the Quartile team can help with all of this stuff. And if you want to sell on Google, you select that button, add a few attributes, and you're able to do that as well. But it's sort of one feed of data in, and then all of these channels. And again, think of it as you want to optimize your data. You want to have sort of best foot forward in terms of how you're representing your products. If you have reviews, if you have rich images, all of that stuff still applies. But ultimately, you have good core data, and then you're trying to get into as many streams as possible. And this is something that we will evolve over time. There will be new areas to sell. There'll be new sort of experiences that we're working on, whether it's in video or in images or what have you. There's a bunch of exciting stuff coming. And so what I would say is this is a great time for you to list your products, start working with the Quartile team. And I think what we'll do is this is something that we're working very closely with them on to make sure that their partners are having their data loaded properly. The spend is going as expected. And so we're seeing some great returns early, and we'd like to scale that. One more slide. And then again, just to reiterate, for those that don't know, I mean, we have I think 8 properties with 1 billion+ users. And there are all of these ways that you can touch and influence the customer. And again, you don't know when they're going to buy. When we've done surveys or we've done studies of shopping journeys, and there are dozens, if not hundreds, of touch points for considered purchases. And so you want to be in the stream wherever they are. And I think that, again, I think that an ads plus free listing strategy is the best way to do that. And from there, what we'll be able to do is just build on it with richer and richer experiences. So then the next slide, I think, is passing back to the team. And Daniel or Kanan, I think you can probably speak to how we would actually sort of what the call to action is for this group. But at a high level, what I would say before I pass it over is check out merchants.google.com. Obviously engage with the Quartile team, and we're working closely on onboarding merchants and helping them bridge over. But generally, there's a ton of sort of available resources. If you're on a platform, you can dig in to see how to optimize your Google channel there as well. But get your products in, start taking advantage of free listings, and then compound that value with the ads product. And I'll pass it to Kennard. Yep.
And just to reiterate here, I think at this point we've gotten the message across, right? But
your voice is too low, Kennard.
I was going to say, Kanan, I think your microphone might have shut off.
Sorry. Can you guys hear me better now? Yeah, I had my microphone up. Apologies for that. So again, every one of us on this call, of course, like we're marketers and we're sellers and we're brands first in our business lives. But as consumers, we're all Amazon shoppers and we're all Google users, right? We all behave in these ways that we've been talking about as consumers, and it shows, right? A large portion of Google product searches now include the word Amazon, right? And this is a good example here. As you type something in, as you start to type a product, either the first or second suggested result is going to have that Amazon tag at the end, because so many people start their discovery journey on Google. And it's particularly as Amazon gets, the marketplace gets more crowded and more competitive from a search and paid search standpoint. A lot of consumers prefer to start their discovery in the Google environment, right? It's a bit cleaner, it's a bit less crowded. And so again, as John was saying, what you really want to do is be able to meet your consumers where they are and where they prefer to shop and where they prefer to begin their buying journey. So let's talk a little bit about how we as Quartile can help and what some of the key pieces are here in terms of how we can bring things together and drive these individual channels for you guys, both in isolation and in concert, right? So it's important, and this is a good view of, for those Quartile users who are in attendance today, this will look very familiar to you. This is this is a screenshot of the Quartile portal, but for the Google activation and kickoff page, right? And we want to highlight this because it's part of the same platform for us. Our APIs connect into all of these different marketplaces and advertising channels, and we can holistically aggregate and act off the data that we collect from those groups, right? So it's important to remember, always as we get started on Google, typically for Amazon sellers, we're leveraging all of the historical data that we've seen that's critical to your performance in the Amazon marketplace. And so we're able to kickstart performance in the Google environment by building off of those blocks of data, right? And then as we collect more data and see more performance on the Google side of things, of course, that informs performance on the Amazon Marketplace side of things, right? And then, this applies itself, and we create that, the quote unquote flywheel in terms of data and performance across the purchase funnel, right? In any number of these channels, right? So, whether you're talking about kind of the lower funnel purchase intent to purchase through Amazon PPC, product display, sponsored products, etc. We're at the top of the funnel with sponsored brands, or of course activity all across the funnel with DSP activation. All of that data combines to help you as a marketer get more new customers, get your existing customers to spend more money with you and be stickier with you from a lifetime value standpoint. And so while there's benefit just in the additional channels, of course, the sum is greater than the individual parts when it comes to the data informing the model and increasing performance for you guys long term. And so a little bit on reporting and insights here. As you can see here, this is our seller console here, and this is available for both Amazon seller and vendor accounts. And everybody, I think, again, for those in attendance that are active customers with us today, you've seen a variation of this, right? That's specifically for your Amazon sales data. This is a similar view based on Google activity, right? And so we can look at this reporting and performance and drill down to the product level or campaign level, or look at it holistically at the advertiser level and look at performance. And we can also do the same thing for channels, right? So if you're active in Google, we can look at that channel in isolation, but then we can also combine that view to see that combined with your performance and the complementary lift that it generates across Amazon PPC, Amazon DSP, or if you're in other markets like Walmart or Instacart. All of these things can be sliced up so that you see, again, isolated performance where you need to, and holistic performance to judge the overall health of the marketing spend in general. And so lastly, before we kind of get to Q&A and commentary here, a big part of the reason why, channel diversification is always important, but again, it's kind of very of the moment and very critical right now at this moment, particularly with Google, is the brand referral bonus program that Amazon launched about a month and a half ago, right? And so this is Amazon incentivizing sellers and brands to drive external traffic into the Amazon ecosystem. And by doing, and the incentive structure here is that they're taking less and less, they're taking less of a commission model, or I'm sorry, commission fee for any products sold that come from externally driven traffic. So, as you think about diversification now, or if maybe you've been thinking about it for months or years or however long it's been, but haven't pulled the trigger, now is the best time to do it, right? Because not only are you going to see the incremental impact of additional customers and additional sales coming in from that channel, but you're also going to have better margins on every one of those sales that come in externally, right? Because of this incentive program. So, it's great timing, kind of launched, like I say, during the dog days of summer where things are slow, but they're quickly not going to be slow. For us, really, Q4 starts tomorrow, right? Because most of the activity is happening in September, October, and November. And then for the most part, unless you're a procrastinator like me, all of your holiday shopping is done by then. So very of the moment. And if you guys are curious, we're happy to talk to you about how to activate this program. There's no additional cost for it. It's just a way for you guys to earn more margin on every one of your products sold, as long as that's driven by external traffic.
I think that just to complement here, Kennard, I think that when it comes to Google, right? When you're thinking about Google, there are mainly three things that you can do, right? There are probably many more things that you can do, but for this context here of this conversation, I think that I would like to highlight three different things that you can do, right? Again, Google is enormous. Like John was showing in the beginning, lots of different properties. I don't know I don't remember exactly the number, but he said something like 8 properties with more than 1 billion users. That's what he said, right, John?
Yeah, that's
so
it.
like, it's completely different. It's a completely different scale, especially usually our audience is more focused on Amazon. So guys, like you have to think about Amazon's advertising revenue, and they're both public companies, right? So they disclose their numbers. Amazon's advertising revenue is at around $30 billion a year, 30. Google's is almost getting to 200 billion, whatever is the number. I don't know exactly the number, but it's like 6-7 times bigger, right? So it's a different scale. So when it comes to Google and e-commerce, I think that sellers, usually marketplace players and brands, can think about 3 different things, right? Bucket number 1, that is more straightforward and it's more obvious probably for whoever is focused just on Amazon, but it's the smaller one. And it's important that everybody understands that this is the smaller or the lowest leverage or the worst or smallest leverage you could make using Google, is to send traffic from Google to Amazon, right? So to Kenan's point there, you start searching coffee pod on Google and it auto-completes Amazon as the second option, right? So yes, there's a lot of people searching and they want to buy on Amazon, and you can leverage that traffic, and it's cheaper than Amazon. We have seen better results, better return on ad spend, lower ACoS on Google sending the traffic back to Amazon than on Amazon itself for a lot of very competitive keywords, right? And you guys can do this by yourselves. Do a test and search for the one killer keyword that you love on Amazon. Search for that on Google. And you're going to see that there's much less competition usually when it comes to how many advertised slots you see on the result. And you're usually going to pay less than half per click than you're paying on Amazon right now. So that's one thing, right? You can send the traffic back to Amazon. First thing is that it's a low-hanging fruit because you already sell on Amazon. It's already there. You just use the data you collected on Amazon. You spend a lot of money on Amazon advertising, invested a lot of dollars to be able to rank better. Let's leverage that learning and let's use those same keywords on Google search campaigns, sending the traffic back to Amazon. We're going to connect Amazon's attribution API to your Google account, to your Amazon account, and then Quartile is going to also be connected to Google Ads API. So we're going to do all that for you guys. You don't have to worry about it. We're going to learn the keywords that perform well on Amazon. We're going to emulate that on Google, making some changes, some adjustments. And whenever someone clicks, they're sent to your Amazon product page and they buy. And once they buy, Amazon has this amazing program that Kennard just displayed here, just showed here, called Brand Referral bonus, that basically they're going to pay you 10% on top of every sale you generate. So if you drive $1,000 in sales from Google to Amazon, Amazon is going to pay you $100. If you drive $50,000 in sales, they'll pay you $5,000. So they're basically subsidizing the ad spend you have on Google, right? That's one bucket, one effort you can have. It's very straightforward. It's very low-hanging fruit. There's no reason not to do it, right? Why would you pay a lot of money to appear first on Amazon, paying a lot per click to compete for that first position? And then when the same customer or a similar customer searches on Google, searching for coffee pods, Amazon, like why wouldn't you want to appear there? So definitely you should be appearing there. That's effort number 1, right? Then you have effort number 2. Effort number 2 is traditional Google shopping campaigns, right? So basically what this means is that you have your website. I will say that probably right now in the market, 90% of sellers on Amazon have a Shopify website. I think they're starting to understand how important it is to diversify, how important it is to have a different channel, exactly like we just discussed. And whenever someone searches on Google, I'm sure you guys all know those ads on the top that have the pictures of the products on Google. When someone clicks there, you can send the traffic back to your Shopify website. It has a lot of benefits. The first one is that strategically, you're generating more value for your company, because for obvious reasons, right? Like the example they just made on the presentation, like if you just have one channel, you're basically putting all your eggs on the same basket. If you have 2 channels, you cut your risk in half already. So obviously you're going to have a longer life as a company, and obviously there will be a premium on your valuation if that is the case you're focused on. right? So that is very, very efficient, right? This is going to give you a very low ACoS, a very high ROAS, very similar to the one you see on Amazon, right? And I think that there's another aspect that you're not paying other fees, right? It's your customer, it's your website, so you own your customer from that point, differently than when you sell on a marketplace, right? You don't have a clue about who that customer is. It's not your customer, it's the marketplace customer. If it's your website, you own the customer, you know who is buying from you. You can have later some email campaigns that usually work pretty well that are going to attract, again, customers that already bought from your brand, they like your brand. You're going to be able to do lots of different marketing activities because you know who that customer is, you're dealing with your customer, and you're building your brand, and you have a different channel, and it's very ROI positive, it's very low ACoS, right? Some people ask, what is the average? Usually I would say that the average ROAS is around 3. So usually we see a 3 times ROAS. It could be higher, it could be lower, depends on how good, how well known your brand is, depends on how many people search for your brand itself. But usually you're going to see around a 3 times ROAS, 3.5 sometimes. We have cases of 6, 7 times ROAS, not the usual. The usual will be something like 3 times ROAS. Very powerful, scaling a lot, more and more people. I remember I was in a trade show some time ago, like 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 4 years ago. And then people were asking, like, who here buys on a website that is not a marketplace, like Amazon or Walmart or any other one? And a very few number of people raised their hand at that time because it was very usual to just buy on marketplaces. I went to another trade show 6 months ago, same question was asked for a big audience, like almost everybody raised their hand. So it went from like 5% of people that really bought something on a website that was not a marketplace, eBay, Amazon, Walmart, in the last 90 days. And this is 5 years ago. And now it was like everybody was buying. So I'll tell you guys by myself, like in these last 30 days, I probably bought 5 or 6 different things in specific websites. And I got there by searching on Google and clicking on an ad. So I think that's a second very important channel, probably bigger, definitely much bigger than sending traffic from Google to Amazon, but sometimes not that straightforward for sellers that are used to just stay on their own marketplace. But like, I think it's important that you guys open your mind. E-commerce is becoming an omni-channel game. You have to be everywhere, and definitely should have a website for your brand. You should sell on the website, and you should send traffic there. And the lowest hanging fruit, bottom of funnel, more efficient than any other thing that you can have, sending paid traffic to your website is definitely going to be Google, right? This is definition of bottom of funnel. It's someone that is searching specifically for a type of product or even for your brand sometimes. We have lots of cases of clients that we show them that they're not doing anything on Google. We search for their brand on Google and they just see their competitors and then they go crazy and they say, I want to do this. Because their competitors are basically, quote unquote, stealing their traffic, right? People that really want to see their product, they appear organically, but their competitors that appear on the ads and they end up winning. And then you have the third one, which is buy on Google, right? And John, I am less educated on buy on Google, but my understanding is that you have the free listings there, right? So basically, like you can, the same way that you can list your products for free on a marketplace, you can list your products for free on Google. And then when people search, if they click on your product on Google, on buy on Google's results, they can check out, they can buy directly on Google, which kind of cuts an additional step. It cuts an additional click, which usually increases conversion rates and make it more efficient. But John, that's what buy on Google is, right?
Yeah, it's exactly correct, Daniel. And I'd say, so just as a distinction, buy on Google is for US only. So if you're selling internationally, then it's not an option for you. And I would also just emphasize the order of operations, the order of the sequencing that Daniel just outlined is, I think, correct as well. And that buy on Google is something you do because you've set up free listings. And it sounds like we've got some questions on how to do that. We'll talk about that in a moment. But I would say buy on Google is like, it's found transactions, right? And think of it from our experience where a user is going through a process of looking and going into, deep review of a product and high consideration, and they're on an image page or on a YouTube video or what have you. Think of it sort of just like from an in context flow, where a user's like, oh, I found the thing I'm looking for. I want to get it right now. And that's where Buy on Google is an interesting opportunity for us, just to capture that transaction and send you the order, right?
If they still sometimes, and I think about myself, like sometimes I don't want to have to add all my financial information and credit card number on a different website that I had never been to, but Google already has. I already have my Google account. It already has my credit card. I'm not sure if that is the case, John, or if it's through PayPal or a different
yeah, I mean,
thing, but it's easier than having to create an account on a different website that you don't have an account yet and so forth, right?
That's right. Most likely, if you have a Google account, you have your shipping address and your credit card in there one way or the other, right? So it is sort of a low friction transaction. But the thing you were talking about as well, about brands creating websites and consumers becoming very comfortable because of ratings and reviews, because of all this like buttressing of data, that you feel confident about a transaction, right? If you're on a website. And so I would say for anyone listening, like I would invest in Buy on Google, but the free listings and ads combo and the multiple pathing that Daniel's talking about to your Amazon store, to a Shopify store or other store builder, that's sort of a really interesting combination. And you're getting the maximum amount of the pie that way, right? You're reaching as many users as you possibly can.
Yeah. And with the beauty of being like it's almost free, right? You pay a very low fee for Shopify to have a website live. Buy on Google is basically costless, so you can have it all. To John's point, like I think the important thing when it comes to direct to consumer as well as to buy on Google is that you need the right feed for your product, right? Your product has to be created in the right way on the merchant center on Google. So this is where I think that we can help a lot, right? Because we're going to handhold you guys. We're going to get you from where you are now. We're going to, if you don't have a merchant center account, we're going to open it for you. If you already have it, we're going to check your feeds, your listings, how they're structured, which keywords they have. There's lots of best practices around. They're not like Amazon. It's completely different. And we are going to be working on it. We're going to make sure that everything is connected. We're going to connect through our API. So you're going to be able to see your sales from your website. You're going to be able to see the results from your campaigns. We're going to be able to feed everything and maintain everything optimized and use the learnings that we generate to make our feeds even better. And so there's an extra step. It's not like marketplaces that like everything is at one place. You have the merchant center, you have your website, and then you have the Google Ads account. And you have to make sure that things are tagged. They are synchronized in terms of people click on Google, they go to your Shopify or to your website, but we have to make sure that we are learning which keywords are performing, which ones are not. So our specialist teams are going to be able to go in, make sure that the accounts are synchronized, they're linked, so that we can see the results from sales on your Shopify website directly on your Google Ads account that is being fed by your Google, the Merchant Center account. So we're going to be working with all that.
Yeah, and just a quick piggyback on what Daniel's saying, and Terry in the chat, I'll address your question as well. And that, on our side, we realize that there's some friction, right? It's sort of the way our systems have been built are really for a power user, right? Large omni-channel retailers or large brands or that have marketers staffed and have lived and breathed inside our systems. And we know that we need to lower the barrier to entry, right? We need to make it easier. And we're working every day on this kind of stuff, right? Making it so that there's very clear policy, making it so that if your listings are approved or not, working with store builders to sort of create those like one-click integrations. But we're still in that process. And I think that really the reason that I'm excited about the Quartile relationship, and we've known each other for several years now, is that I think there's a way to Daniel's point, for them to help sort of translate and get your products from ASIN to GTIN, right? And get your products into our systems in a way that we really understand. And so all that stuff will come. And if you have a different, say you have a Squarespace, Terry, I think that was your comment, we'll figure out how to onboard. I think aligning with Quartile will help sort of remove any of those obstacles. And then in the coming years, we're going to get better and better. Really, in the coming months, it's going to get better and easier to onboard. But this is sort of a unique partnership that we're working on with Quartile, and we think it's kind of exciting because they know how to integrate into us. They know how to spend on ads, and that's something that we're optimizing over time. So it's just a way to sort of, I think from my view, if you have this sort of big learning curve, then we can sort of shortcut some of that by going through this program.
Exactly. I agree 100%. And I feel like, and this is what we see to your point of, these systems usually are built for bigger brands that have like hundreds of employees. They have a lot of people working on e-commerce, on marketing. So they have staff well-trained to maintain everything updated and optimized. Reality is, like, if you think about our average client, I don't know how many employees they usually have, but it's probably going to be like the average client probably has like 5 employees, 4. So definitely they don't have a specialist. And even if they do, probably they would be using their employees' times better by building new products, launching new products, doing better customer service, stay on top of inventory, not to be sold out. We're getting to Kennard's point at the beginning. This is Q4 already. Tomorrow it's September, and September is like we are 1 month from Q4, and we always joke internally that like you should not plan for Q4 in Q4, right? So like if you start planning for Q4 in October, there's something wrong, right? So we know how stressed all the supply chains are right now. So your staff should be doing more. You should be thinking about growing the business, not on like how to maintain the feed. This is the classic professional services concept of, if you're not a very big company, you don't need an internal accountant. You hire a good accountant that sees everything that is happening outside. He knows best practices. He knows what everybody else is doing. And he will use his time also to do the accounting for you as well as for hundreds of other companies. It's much better than having one accountant internally. This is the same, right? Like you could have one employee focus on Google Feeds. Like, is that what you want? Are you going to really be breathing and knowing what is best practices, what people are doing differently, what is coming next on the Google APIs and on the Shopify APIs, on the Square APIs and all the other Magento and all the other websites? You're probably not, right? So you still need probably outside help, specialist help, and we are here to help. Would love to discuss with any of you guys that have any. You can always contact us, right, Kennard, through sales@quartile.com. Go to our website and request a demo. Happy to help.
Yeah. So again, yeah, feel free to reach out on those channels. We'll also be sending a note out to everybody who's in attendance or even registered, but maybe wasn't able to attend today, with both the video recording and the deck, and then also a link to book time with us for a product demo or deep dive conversation about anything we spoke about today. So it should be fairly easy for you to get in touch. So don't hesitate to do so.
I saw another question here, John. Mark is asking if an international seller that already sells in the US, can he list his products on Buy on Google?
Yeah, so Mark, it's a great question. You can definitely list for free listings, right? So if you have a website, then you can be in many, many, many countries. Buy on Google, because it is fairly nascent, still small, then US only. So could that change in the coming months or quarters? Yes, but I would say you have to have you basically have to have a business address in the US to be eligible.
So you need a business address, which these guys have usually. So you need a business address in the US. You need physical inventory in the US, probably.
Yeah.
But once you have both,
if your HQ is somewhere else, but you have operations in the US, I think what we want is to assure that there's a high quality of experience, right? And that products that are in country, I think generally are sort of easier to meet that promise.
Mm-hmm.
So cool. Go to merchants.google.com and sign up, or talk to the Quartile team. I mean, we can dive into the details for Mark specifically and for any other international merchants.
Cool, guys.
Okay, great.
Guys.
So Okay, go ahead, Nick.
I was going to say, I will, we can wrap this up now. Looks like we get all to the questions that that everybody wanted answered, and I appreciate everybody for joining in and asking lots of questions of our experts, and I appreciate you guys staying tuned to Quartile. Thanks.
Great, thanks everyone.
Thanks everyone. Thanks team. Thanks everyone for the time.
Thanks for joining us, John.
All right, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Bye.